Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Winning Wednesdays. I am Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney and the owner of the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, where our mission is to empower women through estate planning. This week, we're going to tackle the subject of decluttering. Don't leave a messy legacy. We're going to talk about why you should declutter, and then we'll discuss how, right? So there's two parts. Now, first, let's define clutter, right? Clutter is an accumulation of things that don't have any financial, sentimental, or functional value, right? Clutter creates chaos, not only for you, but for your loved ones, and can negatively affect your mental health because it causes an increase in stress, anxiety, and depression. And that's well documented. Now, how many of us have gone through this situation? Someone close to us has died. You are then left to go through what seems like endless boxes of clothes, bank statements, awards, and other collectibles in the house. And perhaps they're not even in boxes. This is all of the stuff that was never mentioned of the will, if there even was a will. Now, you see, over the years, that loved one, that deceased loved one, created memories in that house, birthdays, holidays, and other kinds of celebrations. Unfortunately, they accumulated a lot more than just memories. And as you standing there begin the daunting task of decluttering a house that's been really lived in for so many years, you understandably feel overwhelmed, right? So that's why today's topic is so important. Decluttering. Don't leave a messy legacy. When you're in that situation, you in that house and at the point of decluttering everything, you decide that you are not going to leave a mess for your loved ones. You know, for years there have been reports of adult children who were traumatized by cleaning out the homes of their deceased loved ones. You see, I help people with their estate plans every day. And a purpose of an estate plan is to provide your beneficiaries for them and to make it easy for them to carry out your wishes. Now, there's a variety of estate planning documents to complete. You've heard me talk about wills, trusts, powers of attorney, etc. And you may have those things under control. However, what about the personal property that's not specifically mentioned in your will? Let's talk about what we do with all of that. So we're going to start off with reasons why you should declutter now. All right. And I'm going to go over 4 of them. The first reason is that your children really don't want to do it when you die. Organizing your possessions for your heirs is a task that should not be overlooked. In fact, decluttering can enhance your life now, and it's going to be a huge help to your heirs. Many adult children are left bitter and resentful while they're grieving because they have to spend countless hours combing through personal items instead of having the time just to grieve. Okay. The second reason, clutter is hazardous as you age. People who live in disorganized environments are more likely to make poor health choices and be even overweight, according to some research. And the clutter itself can be dangerous. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 Americans aged 65 and older falls every year. Tripping is a leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries among older adults, and many falls can be prevented by creating a safer and clutter-free home environment. The third reason you should declutter now is that storage is expensive. It's not just us who lives in our houses, our stuff lives there too. And the more stuff you have, the bigger your home needs to be, which is an added expense. And storage companies, by the way, are big business. It's estimated that 1 in every 11 American households, 1 in every 11, there we go, has a storage unit. Do you want to pay for housing stuff that you don't really need? Or would you rather use that money on a well-deserved vacation? Right. And the fourth reason why you should declutter has to do with your health, better health. According to WebMD, decluttering can lead to better focus, higher self-esteem, and improved lifestyle and well-being. The older that we get, the more unneeded items we may have. And although we tend to gain fewer possessions after age 50, many older people are less likely to sell things or give them away. In a study of people over 70, about a third of them said that they had not thrown out any possessions in the past year. Sometimes older adults don't get rid of clutter because it requires a lot of physical effort. In such cases, family members can help. It's better to handle the clutter before your health or your physical condition starts to decline, right? And I want to have a moment of full transparency with you. I have items in my own basement that I have held on to for years. Some things, like my late mother's Bible, I'll probably never give away because it holds too many memories for me. It has handwritten notes she made and pictures of her children and grandchildren tucked in near verses that she used to pray over us. Now, on the other hand, I also have old files, magazines, etc., that really need a new home, need to be recycled, or just need to be donated. I'm sharing this with you to let you know that we all can benefit from some level of decluttering. It's going to look different for each person, but do what works for you, right? Now, let's talk about how not to leave a messy legacy, right? And how to declutter. The first thing is to establish a plan, right? Decluttering can be overwhelming. So it's important to establish a plan for how to tackle your stuff. Think about what rooms you want to do first. And do one small area at a time if that makes things easier. You can also organize yourself by the types of objects like books, kitchen appliances, photos, clothes, etc. The next suggestion is to consolidate bills wherever possible. For example, choose 1 or 2 credit cards or bank accounts to manage personal and business bills in one convenient location. Not only does it make it easier for you to manage your finances, it makes it easier for your family to locate and manage your financial affairs at the time of your passing or during periods of incapacity. Take advantage of electronic delivery in place of receiving paper statements if you are comfortable with this. The third tip is to take photos of things you want to remember. It's understandable that you want to remember things. Use your cell phone to take a picture of the items that are special to you. Create an album in your camera or your camera phone with only those photos. And consider this, for certain objects, a picture may be enough for you to hold on to the good feeling that that object brings. You can give away the object itself to reduce clutter. The next tip is to set criteria for what you want to keep. Ask yourself if you use the item regularly. Does it have more than one function or purpose? Does it have a strong emotional value? Or, as Marie Kondo is famous for asking, does it spark joy? The next tip is there someone in your life who would appreciate the item you want to keep? If so, place a dot or a post-it note or something on the item to remind you, and then to make it easier to gift it to that person at the appropriate time. If you want to gift it as part of your will, identifying these items now will make it a lot easier for you and your attorney when they're crafting your will. These are known as bequests. And then another tip is see if your area where you live is hosting a shred event. Here in Maryland, there are annual community shred events hosted by local television stations and various businesses. Check out when your next local community shred event is taking place and get your boxes of papers ready to go. Identity theft is increasing every day, and that's why shredding confidential documents becomes necessary. If you use a free paper shredding event in Maryland, for example, you can get rid of all those documents safely. And by the way, here are some reasons why you should shred your documents. It's going to help you save a lot of storage space. You won't need to spend extra money acquiring rental storage space. And it's an effective way to secure your business and personal data from being stolen. Right? The next tip is decide if you want to sell an item. And within this, there are questions that you need to ask yourself when you get to this point. First, will the item be worth my time to sell? Remember that your time is worth something and it's not limitless. You want to use it wisely. So consider how much money you'll actually be making from the sale versus how much time is involved. And then another point, is the item going to be in demand? There are so many forums for buying used items these days. If there are already 100 items like yours on maybe Craigslist or eBay, it's probably going to be harder to sell and you're going to get a lesser value, lesser return for it. You also need to consider the condition of the item and if it's still something that's relevant in today's market. Again, we're still under the heading of whether you want to sell an item. The next thing to consider is, what do you reasonably expect to make off of this item? Sometimes it's hard to come up with a reasonable price for what you're selling, especially if you have an emotional attachment to it. Just remember to look at items online and what they actually sold for. All right, so keep that in mind. And the last point under this heading is, do you actually have the time to sell this? If you're going to sell something, you need to be able to set a timeline for yourself and stick to it. If the item isn't sold within that time, then you just need to give it away. And be realistic with yourself. If you have a lot of things to get rid of, you will not have time to sell everything. Just pick the best items to sell and donate the rest, or give them to a family member who actually wants the items. So the last point in how to declutter is to gather items to donate, right? When you have culled through your stuff and now you have a pile ready to donate, you have many options, right? Well-known nonprofits like Goodwill and the Salvation Army are just a couple of examples that accept furniture, appliances, and electronics. But there may be other smaller local charities that could also benefit from your donations. Consider local churches or religious institutions in your area that also are seeking donations to help the less fortunate in your community. You might even get a tax deduction. Do you have books? Consider donating gently used books to your local library. Are there maybe dresses or suits that you no longer wear? How about allowing those clothes to be a blessing to someone getting back on their feet and looking for a job? Just things to think about. Listen, there was so much information on today's show that I personally am going to go back and watch this myself. If you want to help someone in your life not to leave a messy legacy, share this video with them. I'd love to know what you think about today's episode. Did it help you? Let me know in the comments. I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Women Winning Wednesdays, where today, again, we talked about decluttering and not to leave a messy legacy. I'm Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney, empowering women through estate planning. And I'll see you in my next episode. Take care.